Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. Today we'll be listening to the rest of the conversation I had with Kingsley, the former atheist. And this conversation went in a direction I didn't expect and left me with more questions than I came in with. But it was a fun conversation to see that Christianity is so malleable, you can turn it inside out and wear it as you like. So it's more damning for Christianity as usual. But anyway, if you are yet to subscribe, please consider subscribing. Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, and other places you find podcasts. Then check out the show notes for links you may find useful. If you want to have a discussion like this, feel free to reach out. Should via WhatsApp, social media, or email. But we'll work out a time that is convenient for both of us. So now let's go and listen to the rest of the conversation I had with Kingsley, the former atheist.
Besides the
one is enough if you can't remember. But there's a follow-up question to your answer of the unnecessary.
Okay.
Now,
right.
This is one of your many unnecessary, or is it many? Okay, a few unnecessary. Why would you still worship such a God that does unnecessary evil?
Okay. Well, the thing is, worship, worship and belief are somewhat mutually exclusive.
Yes, you have to believe.
Believe, of course, and you can believe without worshiping. Now, of course, I worship the God of the Bible, but then, one thing I feel, the Old Testament mostly is a collection of books that's written with anthropomorphism or florid, or using florid and macabre descriptions of God. In the sense that I made mention of anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism in the sense that it gives human qualities to God. Like it tries to understand God in the sense of things that can be perceived by humans. For example, you hear things like the anger of God, the jealousy of God, the hand of God. Now, in a literal sense, those things are not as they are described. For example, God does not. God is not literally angry.
Sorry.
Oh,
in the
sorry.
case of Uzzah.
Oh, okay.
Are you saying that event did not happen? Like it wasn't God that struck him, or there was no striking of that striking?
Okay. Let me. This is going to be lengthy, but I will keep up. There are lots of views, of course. I'm sure you're aware of that. There are lots of views pertaining the Old Testament. There is there is one view called. I'm trying to recall the name of the view. Okay. I don't think this view is pertaining this. Hold up. I'm trying to recall the name. There is one view that says, okay, the Old Testament, like the actions in the Old Testament are done by angel. Now, there is the Hebrew word for God is Elohim, and Elohim is God in a plural sense. Now, I think there are Bible translations that have Elohim translated, even in some areas of common Bible translations, Elohim is translated as gods, and to a degree refers to angels. So one possible explanation for the things in the Old Testament is that they were actions of angels who are as capricious as humans. They had changing emotions as humans, but then because they were seen as representatives of God, all their actions were classified as actions of God. Then there is another view that I think it's more. It's a non-literalist view that says that most of the things in the Old Testament are not even most, all of the things in the Old Testament are not literal. So it takes
Where do
certain
you
characters
fall?
in the Bible. Okay, I'm a combination of non-literalist and literalist. Okay, now, yeah, okay, let me explain. Let me explain. Like, somewhat in the center. Now,
Okay.
a literalist that regards certain historical aspects of the Bible. References to kings, like the feat of certain kings. Now, David, for example, okay, I don't really see David as a historical figure. I see him as more of a legendary figure because there is no outside reference or extra biblical reference to David. So I see him as a legendary figure, even Solomon, because based on extra biblical records we have, it seems they are more like chiefs of um, secluded regions in the Middle East than they are described in the Bible. So I feel the Bible greatly exaggerates the
I'm in
prominence.
agreement with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Okay,
Like
greatly
Solomon,
exaggerates
in
the
the case of
prominence.
Solomon.
Solomon, exactly. In the case, Solomon and David. I see. Okay, it's possible they existed because there is a reference outside the Bible to the house of David. I'm trying to recall. It's not in it's not in Shalmaneser's obelisk. There is a reference. I think in is it in the Babylonian record? Or it's extra biblical record to the house of, not to David himself, but to the house of David.
Okay.
And that my view of the Bible takes a more historical tone, when it comes to certain kings like Omri. Omri is one of the kings of Israel, whose feet, I think he paid tribute to the Assyrian king. Is it to Shalmaneser? I think he paid tribute to one Assyrian king, and this is recorded in an Assyrian clay tablet in a record. So Omri is one king in the Bible that I can consider a historical person.
So
But then,
so these are the things that enabled you to keep worshiping this God.
Oh, okay. No. The thing that enabled to keep worshiping this God, I think of God as all good, quite all right.
All good, but despite the unnecessary evils, you will not see that as a contradiction as a philosophical person.
Contradiction. You see, I take it. That's what I said.
You are the philosophical person. That's why I put it to you that way. Like,
I know. I understand.
An all good person is doing unnecessary evils. It doesn't match up now.
My views are, it's possible there are Christians who would listen to this podcast, and my view goes against the unconventional.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
let me tell you one side.
Okay.
Whenever I deal with a Christian, it's always about what the person believes, because Christian theology is as many as the Christians that exist. If you analyze every Christian's theology, there's always variation. So that's why it is always a case by case. Yes, there are places where the Venn diagram intersects, but in general, it's always about what the person in particular. That's why it's always about the person I'm speaking with. So it's all about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So are you perchance familiar with Gnosticism?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of.
There are certain. Yeah, Gnosticism is Gnostic Christian. Like, it's a faction of Christianity that is so unconventional that they are. It's considered a heretical version of Christianity. So Gnostic Christianity, there are sects in Gnostic Christianity. One of such sects is the Sethians, and there's another sect called the Cathars. They view the Old Testament God as evil. So it's called the demiurge. It's influenced by this idea is influenced by Platonism, Neoplatonism. There's a concept called the concept of the demiurge. Now, the demiurge is considered a deity below the one true God. Now, the one true God is seen as all pervading, like it is called the monad. Now, the demiurge, though Plato's version of the demiurge is a good creator of the material universe, is Plato's version of the demiurge, a good creator of the material universe. But then, the Christian version of the Gnostic Christian version of the demiurge thinks that the demiurge is the evil creator of the immaterial universe, and which is why the material world is so flawed.
So is that what is making you still worship this God?
Okay, the thing is, okay, it's a very sensitive thing, especially for Christians, which is all the kind of Christians around here, which is why
it's not about the major audience. Any Christian that is listening to this is on the way out of the door, whether they know it or not. I purposely the content of this doesn't attract the mainline Christians. It is special kind of Christians like yourself who have looked outside. Most Christians are locked in on the Bible. You have obviously looked outside. So
so the thing is, I do not think the God of the Old Testament is the true God. It's not like so I kind of see reasons.
I'm impressed and shocked. I never saw that coming.
Okay. The thing is, I see reasons with Gnostic Christianity.
Okay.
Like the views that there is a secret gospel called the Apocryphon of John. There's even another one called the Gospel of Judas Iscariot.
Facts. I heard that there were 80 something. It's just this 4 that made the final cut.
But of course, there are lots of gospels. The ones I'm acquainted with are Gospel of Thomas, Questions of Bartholomew. That's the extra biblical gospels. Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Bartholomew, Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Simon Peter, the Gospel of Nicodemus, the Apocryphon of John, Gospel of Judas Iscariot.
So you see your kind of Christian is the type of person that will listen to this. So.
Okay, so the thing is, I only said I worship the God of the Old Testament. I don't really want to incite some sort of feeling amongst people.
There's already civil war in Christianity. That's why there are over 40,000 denominations. So you should not be bothered. I think you can even start your own denomination if you have the finance. Well, do you understand?
Okay, so I grasp.
So that is why. Okay, so.
Okay, so
you're not actually worshiping the God of the Old Testament. That's what's.
Exactly. So I believe according to the Apocryphon of John said that God had the monad that's considered the one true God or the creator of the monad is seen as identical to the universe. He had a daughter called Sophia.
Wow.
Sophia wisdom. So Sophia gave birth to the demiurge. Now she was kind of ashamed of his form.
This stuff is breaking. Is my voice breaking?
No, not at all. Can you hear me now?
Why is it breaking on my own? Your voice is breaking. Can you go out and come in? Let's see whether that will help.
Okay, hold up.
Okay, wait, hold on. Your voice is clear now. It's clear.
Oh, okay.
Continue.
So the monad had a daughter called Demiurge. Usually in mainstream Christianity, God is considered a Trinity, but in Gnostic Christianity, it's treated as God in four places. Yeah, God in four. There's God the Father. There's God the Father. There's God the Father.
I'm loving this.
God in the Father. Then there is Barbelo, considered the wife of God, God the Mother.
Okay.
Then there is God, Jesus Christ the Son. Then there is Sophia, wisdom, the daughter. So Sophia gave birth to
Holy Spirit has been ghosted on this particular set. You are blowing my mind. Okay.
Okay, so Sophia gave birth. According to the Gospel of Judas Iscariot, there are actually 13 races of gods. 13 races of gods, and Jesus is considered the son of the highest God.
That's what makes him special.
According to the Gospel of Judas Iscariot. So, in that Gospel, I've not read it extensively, but in that Gospel, Jesus called Judas the 13th demon, and the 13th daimon, which is Greek for spirit. So he called him the 13th spirit or the 13th daimon. So he said he's an earthly representative of Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is the Gnostic Christian name for the God of the Old Testament. Yaldabaoth is from the Aramaic Yalda-Bahutha, child of chaos. So he said he was
Yahuda?
No, Yahuda is Judah in Hebrew. Okay. Yalda-Bahutha, child of chaos. So, according to the Gospel or the Apocryphon of John, like, he was unaware of planes of existence higher than his. So, when Sophia, his mother, gave birth to him, she wrapped him in a cloud and sent him to a lower realm. So he was unaware of realms higher than him. So, according to the Apocryphon of John, in his foolishness, he said, "There is no God before me." So that, but prior to that, it was Jesus making this exposition. But prior to that, when he was, when they were observing the Passover or the Last Supper, Jesus asked the question. He said, "Who do you think I am?" or something of that sort. Or he says, "Who do you pray to?" So they said they prayed to the God of Abraham, the one that was revealed to us by ancestors. Jesus laughed. So Jesus laughed. So Jesus laughed. He said something about I can't recall that. Okay, I'll skip that.
Mocking them.
Yeah, he mocked them. Something about, he said, your piousness, like you give your piousness to something that God that's so obsessed or so engrossed in trivial things like this.
Now, let pause before we go into the deep end. Okay. My entire rabbit hole on this. The challenge with what you are telling me now is the character of this Jesus is different from the ones in those four. Do you not see it?
Of course. It's pretty obvious.
So Jesus is misrepresented in the Bible.
It's okay. Yeah. Well. Okay. I would say to an extent, yes, but in this Apocryphon, he is still sacrificed. He is still laid to the cross, but
not in the sequence of events.
No, but it was something he orchestrated himself. He asked Judas to betray him. He said, "Remove the man that clothes me."
Okay.
Like, remove the man, like, free my soul. Remove the man that's clothing me. So,
now let me interrupt here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
With what you have described now, as an atheist looking outside now, what we are seeing is the gospel of, is that Judas or Thomas you just described?
The gospel of Judas.
Now, it's even making it more obvious that what could have happened then is everybody was trying to write their own gospel to make the cut. And Judas's own was just too, amongst others, just like Gospel of Thomas and others, were just too bizarre. That's why the ones that they are calling Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which were anonymous, are the ones that make the cut. Which gives it, looking at it, this is just human manipulation. To the outsider, it doesn't look like a god. So why is the real God, which you are referring to, watching this whole confusion happen? There are over 2 billion people who do not buy into what you are, or what you believe in is correct. If what you are saying is the truth, then the vast majority of the Christendom is going to burn in hell. Is there still hellfire in that Gnosticism? Like,
no, not at all. Okay, so let me. It says, the thing is this. It says, those who obtain gnosis, secret knowledge, those who obtain gnosis would be transfigured, or would become incorruptible, that they would be admitted into, or they would become one with the one, that's the monad.
That's those that believe.
No, not those that believe, those that attain gnosis, those who are able to stand against the whims of the demiurge, that's the lesser god.
Okay.
Would that's the attain knowledge of the personality of the lesser
So
god.
demiurge is the god that is deceiving all the Christians now.
Kind of.
See, you're an atheist, so feel free to say what.
No. Okay.
What is happening now is what I want to find out is someone like me that doesn't believe in the monad, the demiurge, the Yahweh, the Jesus, that doesn't buy it all. What happens to someone like me?
This it doesn't explicitly say for those who do not believe at all. It just says like those who are able to break away from the worship of the demiurge,
which I have done.
So
I'm going to be transfigured. Whoa, mashallah. Laku saka.
Okay. So this form of it's not really something I discuss with my Christian peers.
They can't accept it. It's people like us that we have fun.
It's not really something.
If you scatter their brain, they will call you a devil. I can assure you. Yes.
So, but then you see, the reason I would confess one thing. This Gnosticism is not really something I have fully immersed myself in. I still have some sort of doubts in a way that what if
this is
the
wrong.
God that actually exactly what if this is wrong, and the God
you see, that's this question you're asking is what I asked. What if you are wrong on the Gnosticism and the mainstream too? What if they are wrong? And now let's even pivot. We have gone too far, but now, why is it the Christian God? Why didn't you give the Muslim God or Yoruba God or whatever deity, other deities apart from the one you grew up with, or kind of, why didn't you consider the Allah? Because we both agree that Allah is a different person from Yahweh. He doesn't have a son.
Okay. Then I understand.
Like
we have
Brahma, you have traditional gods here in our country. So why didn't you buy into all that?
Okay.
Your own traditional god.
The thing is, what I believe in, I admit in terms of religiousness, I am more Christian. But what I believe, the kind of God I believe in is an all-encompassing one. Like, I believe in the concept of God, not a specific religious God.
No. You just contradict yourself. That tweet is very old. It's Judeo-Christian.
That I said theistic. Like, I'm a theist with unaffiliated to a specific religious gathering, but with a religiosity that's what I'm saying now. That in terms of religion, like I have Judeo-Christian leaning.
Okay.
Judeo-Christian leaning, like when it comes to religion. But then whenever I always argue for God, I always argue for the concept of God.
That's deistic.
Because I would say when it comes to really I would admit when it comes to religion or arguing for a specific kind of religion, it's way hard. It's way harder compared to arguing for the concept of God. I mean, given that I'm someone who does not really like bias, if I want to argue for which religion is right, I will definitely have some sort of bias. So which
everybody's
I
coming
tend to
from a bias. I even as an atheist, I'm coming from a bias.
I understand. Yeah, I have my bias, of course, is one that embraces an ideology that has God as the ground of all things. That's my bias, quite all right. But it's a bias like a lot of religious people can relate to. So, but then I don't really like this idea of divisiveness in religions, which is why I tend to avoid discussions that pertain arguing for a particular kind of God.
Okay.
So yeah, since like arguing for the concept of God is more unifying than arguing for a particular kind of God.
That's is a big challenge for anybody coming from mainline Christianity or mainline Islam, because
yes.
that is where their strong belief, like, bro, you're a fucking heretic. Let me just put it that way. You're a fucking heretic to the average believer you meet on the street. So that's why I thought that this is a good place for you to say your mind. There you get. So I had to ask you that Muslim, why you didn't consider Muslim. And it's obvious you had your Christian bias. Is it fair to conclude that?
Okay, I didn't catch that.
Like you said, you've always been Christian leaning. That is why you are more on the Christian God side.
Yes.
Instead of any of the other 4,000 Brahma, Aurora, Mazda, and Google. Like, you even know about Brahma. Many Christians don't know who the fuck Brahma is. Do you understand?
Okay, yeah. I think I should let you know, at a point I considered Hindu philosophy. There is one philosophy that has an atheistic leaning. It's called Mimamsa. I think Hinduism is divided into 6 kinds of philosophy. There's Nyaya, Advaita Vedanta, Samkhya, Yoga, Vaisheshinka, and Advaita Vedanta.
So why didn't you consider it? Why did you not?
Mimamsa, I would say, I have gotten used to this Christian notion of, shy from other religious beliefs and kind of thing. So let's say
that's the challenge. That's the challenge with Abrahamics.
So it's old habits, die hard kind of thing.
So it's the Muslim too. We say it from that perspective, because what happens with religion, it's the way me I see it, it acts like a virus. When you are infected with one, it will not allow you to be affected by another. That is not in his family. That's the way me I see it. Me, I'm a non-believer, so I don't do. That's the way me I see the religion. So that's why when you believe strongly in Islam, you see Christianity and you see all the flaws clearly. The Christian will see the flaws of Islam clearly, but you, the atheist, that is looking at them like, you have COVID, you have SARS. It's coronavirus you both have. But do you understand? That's the way I see it. Christianity and Islam, they are both coronaviruses, but one is SARS, one is COVID.
But the thing is, one argument, one evidence for, when in philosophy, when we use evidence, it's something that increases the likelihood of a particular entity occurring in reality or occurring as a truth. So one thing I consider an evidence, not a definitive proof, is that one thing I consider an evidence for the existence of God is the fact that people from diverse areas all have the idea of a transcendent reality, one that transcends space and time, one that transcends
something that they are looking up
to. But the thing is, we all have a burden of proof, atheist or theist. Now, a lot of atheists like to
doesn't.
Say, really?
The atheist doesn't.
Okay. A lot of people.
Okay, let me explain why the atheist doesn't, so that you will get it now. Me and you and the third person, we are friends, and you come to my house one day, and I tell you I have a pet dragon in my backyard. No, what would you believe me because I said I have a pet dragon in my backyard?
So now,
would
if I say no,
me?
No. Okay,
what would you request of me?
Show me.
Show you the dragon. Fine.
Yes.
I take it to my backyard. The dragon is done there, but I show you a burnt wall. I show you some scratch marks on the wall. and I show you what I say is a dragon scale, would you still believe me?
I would
I say
believe
the
that it
dragon
is
flew. The dragon went on a flight to.
okay. I would say it's likely, but I still can't see any dragon.
Good. So when are you left? When are you supposed to believe me? So as you are now, I'm telling you now. What you are when you say the atheist needs to have a burden of proof,
okay,
is me telling you, my friend, to prove that dragon doesn't exist.
Okay, no. I think you're missing something. Okay,
you are withholding your belief in the existence of that dragon.
I think
is that not what you are doing?
I think, of course, I'm withholding.
That is exactly what the atheist is doing when in regards to the existence of God.
Okay,
they are not believing any God exists till the person that says the God exists proves it.
Okay, now when you reject the claim that the God exists, now are you not implicitly making it? Now, one thing a lot of people, especially new atheists, don't realize is the burden of proof is on the person making the claim, whether they are atheist or theist.
You don't still get my point. You are the one saying God exists. I'm saying I don't believe you.
That's what I'm
to prove to you when I say I don't believe you.
Calm down. That's what I'm trying to explain now. Okay. Why I said you have a burden of proof.
Okay.
Why I said you have a burden of proof. Now, when you make the claim, like the burden of proof at least in philosophical spheres, is on the person making the claim. It doesn't matter whether they are an atheist or a theist.
What's the claim of the atheist?
Now, when you say you disbelieve, when you say you reject a claim, are you not implicitly making another claim by rejecting one claim? You're saying that it has to be something else other than what you are claiming.
Do you see that you are doing what I said concerning my dragon?
Calm down.
You are doing you are doing exactly the same thing.
God, the statement "God does not exist" is a claim.
Do you see the problem? That's what I always try to draw out. No, you are the one saying God exists. I say I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
God exists is a claim.
I don't believe you.
Now you don't believe me.
So you automatically say by me saying I don't believe you mean automatically saying God does not exist?
No, that's what I was about to explain now.
So where did God does not exist come from? Because you are saying implicitly I am saying it. By saying I don't believe you, I am saying God does not exist.
You're not of the opinion that God does not exist.
I'm not of that opinion. That's not my opinion. Yes, I don't just believe.
Okay, you're not explicitly, which means in that case, my apologies then. In that case, what you have is the burden of inquiry, not the burden of proof. So that's to say you do not believe that you're in terms of knowledge or in terms of certainty, you are agnostic, right?
That's why they are agnostic atheists now. In fact, every atheist is agnostic if they are honest.
No, there are actually atheists that explicitly say.
Yes. I say if they are honest. The reason why I say if they are honest, because it is impossible to know 100% for sure that any God of any sort exists. Is impossible. You don't have the tools and the ability to do the inquiry that is required to find out if for real. You cannot cope this whole universe.
Okay, but
that is why it is never 100%. If you are going to claim God does not exist.
Okay, do you know that there are agnostic atheists and agnostic theists? Forgive me.
Yes, no.
There are agnostic theists. So do they have a burden of proof or not?
They do, because they believe. It's just that they say they don't know. So they are like, okay, I don't know. They say they don't know that God exists, but I believe.
I believe, but when you say you don't, like, what's the difference between that and saying I don't believe?
Agnosticism.
Let me explain. Sorry, like you said it yourself.
Agnosticism and atheism answer to different questions. So you get.
I understand. Agnosticism answers certainty. Atheism answers belief. But of course. Now, calm down. When you say I don't believe, you're not. So when you say I believe, are you making a statement of knowledge of epistemic truth? I believe. So are you making a statement of a statement of certainty, not epistemic truth? Are you making a statement of certainty?
For the agnostic
that you
atheists,
know,
for the
no, for
agnostic
the
theists.
theist, are you making a statement of certainty? Like when you say I believe, are you making a statement of certainty? Now remember, it's certainty.
Is it the
Only
agnostic theist, or which part of which
statements of
theist are you talking about?
epistemology. That's the agnostic theist. Now the only thing that required in this case epistemic justification, that is to prove that you know that something to prove that you know that something has a chance of likelihood, or has a the highest
Probability.
likelihood or probability. Now that's epistemic justification. That's called epistemic justification. Now when you say you believe, are you epistemically justifying, or are you making a statement of epistemic justification? Now compared to I know. Now which of them requires you to give evidence? I know or I believe?
I know.
Exactly. So does the agnostic theist have a burden of proof?
No.
Exactly. So if the agnostic if I want to circumvent the idea of burden of proof, I would just say that by your own by what you view,
So
or
you're
sorry, by
agnostic.
your
You're
own,
an agnostic theist.
rather by what you view, I can claim I'm an agnostic theist and I will circumvent the burden of proof.
It's
But
not
then
circumvent if you like, no? Then there's nothing. Then discussion is ended. There's nothing to discuss
so
anymore.
that's why I think burden of proof takes different step. Like the burden of proof now is
You still
in
you are still bringing it back to
okay.
my dragon analogy. You
Okay,
don't
okay.
believe my dragon is real, so you yourself will have to prove my dragon is not real. Do you accept that burden of proof?
I didn't catch that. Sorry.
My dragon analogy.
Okay.
I showed you. I told you there's a dragon, but all I did was show you burn marks and what I claim to be dragon scale.
Okay.
And yet you don't believe me. The burden of proof is on you to prove that dragon doesn't exist.
Then I would make an argument from the evidence of absence, or the absence of evidence.
So the absence of evidence is the evidence of
in the
absence.
sense that I could, or the evidence of absence, I could make an analogy. Like I could explain why it is less likely for that dragon to exist. So when you say when the
so you accept the burden of proof of proving my dragon is not real.
Yes, I will accept the burden of proof. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Let me explain it. Okay. You have to calm down first. So when the believer asks, like, why do I not believe that I should show that it is not the case? Now, remember, we are both making statements of at least some level of certainty. The believer says, I know that the dragon is there, but I, on the other hand, do not believe it. So I would point out, for example, like most atheists, what they do is they point out incompatibilities in certain ideas of God. Like, for example, you can't have free will and God is omniscient. So, once contradictions arise in the nature of a particular thing, it is less than likely to be true or to exist. So the atheist could then point out, I do not believe so and so, because when you consider the statement you're making and when you consider the attributes of the thing you claim to know, certain contradictions arise. So, and it's been shown that things that are contradictory in nature, things that contradict themselves in nature, are less than likely to be true. So that's one way the atheist, okay, the burden of proof is not as intense as the one the theist has by saying there is a God and that they know for sure.
So what you're basically saying is like the atheist burden of proof is not as heavy as the believer.
Not as heavy as the one the believer has. The atheist can show inconsistencies. So, but the believer has to show why, even despite those inconsistencies in their claims, their claim is true. It is one way to to go around this burden of proof thing.
I'll be in agreement with you on that. Like, if that's what you consider burden of proof, wherein because I personally, evidence of absence, it feels dismissive. It feels dismissive, even though yes, I agree with it in a way, but it feels dodging
See,
the
like,
arguments. But the contradictions, that's what's a lot of it is. I do that from time to time. The contradiction in what they claim God is and how he acts, and you understand, it's almost like a
so
square
that
circle kind of
like
situation.
kind of exactly. So that's one thing, and another thing, like I said, I'm not like a conventional theist in
Which
the
I
sense
love.
that
So
there are things like I'm more of God is infinite than God is perfect. Like perfection is too limited. Like it limits God to a great degree. So I'm more of
which
the
makes
kind
him
of
an
guy that
asshole and good at the same time. He's a good asshole.
so
Yes. If you are going to stretch it that far,
okay.
he go collect
I
anyway
would
through.
concede. I will concede.
He go collect anyway through.
I will concede. I'll concede that. I'll concede that. Like,
I think
yeah.
we can stop it because me and you go talk here till 12 midnight. I don't dey fear. This is let us call it a close. We have
Okay.
we have had a 1 hour plus fun.
Okay.
You know. So it's you see why it's important to get your own perspective. I will never in my wildest dream think we'll get to this point. I know they prepare for the classical Christian, and alas, you are not somebody that I can come across on the streets if not for the internet. So it's fantastic talking with you.
Okay. So the thing is, when I say I see myself becoming a Roman Catholic, is
Good. You remember.
okay.
Let us
Yeah.
end on that note.
It's I feel back then at school I was a member of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
So I felt, at some point we have to have some sort of social gathering or social group. So
Yeah.
I feel the spirit, some of these questions I asked as a theist, I felt free posing them to members of the Catholic Church. Like they gave free answers. They are not the kinds that would say, "Why would you ask such questions? You can't question God," things like that. So I felt free with them. They gave certain, and there was one question I asked them. I asked, it's a philosophical, it's a philosophical quandary, a problem. Like, can God create a rock so heavy he can't lift it? So
I don't hear that in there. Like that is a whole foreign question.
So, one answer, though even Hindus, they've attempted that to solve that quandary. One said something about, one argument is God exists in multiple forms of reality, more in various possible worlds, and he exists in a possible world where he can't lift the rock. At the same time, he exists in one in which he can actually lift the rock. So, if God can create a rock,
Eating your
he
cake
exists.
and have it.
I mean, like he exists. That's the concept of it's called, I think, modal realism. Modal realism, like the concept of that possible worlds, like idealizing possible worlds, actual makes them actual. Like he actualizes possible worlds. It's called, I think, modal realism. Like
If we are going to go by that, we can put that philosophy on the MCU and the DCU and all that.
Yes, like all those things, like various
Thanos is real somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. You can actually
that creates a lot of problems because you can imagine that means like, dragons exist somewhere. We have Queen Daenerys somewhere. Damon is somewhere. Do you get all these things? Like a lot of imaginary characters will start having foothold, and that creates problems. And that is one of the problems with religion. So it is a lot of religions claim to be reality when they're supposed to be fan fiction. In fact, all of them.
Okay, the thing is this. The thing is, when we talk of possible worlds that are possible as worlds you cannot, worlds you cannot think of some sort of contradiction in existing in them. So it's there's an argument called the modal ontological argument that says that we can't perceive of any form of contradiction in the nature of God, which means God exists in the possible world, and if God exists in possible world, he exists in the actual world or something, in various possible worlds rather, he exists in the actual world. But then a philosopher showed how that argument can spawn a defeater or a contradiction. Now, one can think of a possible world in which there's something called a no-no. Now, a no-no is a creature that knows that there is no God, and it has the evidence for it. Now, you cannot conceive of any contradiction, or you cannot, when you think of the concept of a no-no, you cannot think of any contradiction in it. It knows that there is no God and it has the evidence, which means it must be in every possible world, or at least one possible. And in every possible world that there is a no-no, all those things,
philosophical jegbo. Maybe we don't enter that voicemail because that is just a philosophical definition into existence. Yeah. But where can we find you? Do you want us to find you online? Where can we find you?
Oh, okay. On Twitter, I am Java Warrior.
Okay.
But you see me on Twitter most of the time.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Now, for all those controversial angles, you're going to see me, Sha. Okay. All those kind controversial angles.
We'll go down for that street now.
No wala na. No wala.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please subscribe up Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, and other places you find podcasts. Then check out the show notes for links you may find useful. If you want to have a discussion, reach out via email, WhatsApp, or any of the social media handles. We'll work out a time convenient for you. Have a great week, and I will catch you on the next one.